pretty. It's like low alpine. So this is just kind of a low alpine, I guess you would call this. We're at 6,100 feet. And you can kind of see the type of pines, kind of a scrubby pine, I guess. And we're going to take a walk up into those hills looking for some Chalcedony. Hope I can show you some good examples of that. And you can kind of get a sense for what the makeup of the ground is. It's pretty much an upheaval, and you're going to find a number of different stones here, although I came here for a specific elevation, and that was to find possibly some harder material. I was hoping for agates. However, there is some jasper. Some of it is pretty poor, but a lot of it's hard enough to do something with. There's another stone which I refer to as a potato because to me it looks like a potato. You crack it open, it's a little more silicified than it looks. It will actually take a very good polish. However, the potato is particularly unattractive. It doesn't really come in anything worth not leaving around. So we're not looking for potatoes today. We're just going to start walking up here, see what we get. I came up here looking for agate. And what we're going to find up here is Chalcedony. Not noteworthy, but this area has a lot of conglomerate in it. And it's not hard enough to do anything with, but it's usually found in outcroppings like that. This whole area I considered upheaval. In other words, no solid stone, all dirt, and everything was thrown up from below. But you can see, just looking right here, this is an example of Chalcedony, but it's got layers to it, and I don't like that. So I'm gonna look for something a little thicker. So here's some more potato. And I only show these because some people really like picking them up. There's some colorful potatoes on this mountain in these upheavals. And again, we're kind of in a zone where you could find cactus. Okay, so I was just saying that because I saw a bunch of potatoes over there, and then I thought to myself, okay, well, I was saying I don't pick up potatoes. I'm not totally against potato because sometimes, like I found these on the Colorado River on the banks in Laughlin, Nevada, on the state line, but in Laughlin. And these things take a really great polish. It's a hard stone, it's very silicified, and I like the grain in some of these. And so, yeah, they got some character. Like this guy right here is kind of like he's got a line through him. And you know, the funny thing is if you cut these in half, this is not surface. This goes all the way through. And I think some of these have got really good character. And I've polished some of these in a tumbler that are small, and they've come out really, really interesting. And so, you know, when I said no potato and that most people pick them up, well, you know, here's what a good potato can look like, right? Like to me, it kind of looks like a leopard shark, you know. It's got like spots and lines on it. You know, if I throw this in a large tumbler, this is going to come out extremely well. And again, these are polished by the Colorado River, a big, heavy moving force for a long time. Who knows how long they spent in the river, 100 million, 200 million years, whatever. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that. Like I said, there's various types of Chalcedony up here. You know, there's a pretty good deal of specimens up here. I just don't pick up specimens, however. Actually, where that lands is the kind of thing that I'm looking for next. Let me see here. So, at first glance, this isn't quite as thick as what I like, but I'll take it because it's solid. But it's not a good enough example to show you exactly what I'm looking for, but it's kind of a nice area to walk through. It's got a lot of pine cones. You can see it's pretty volcanic. Soil's dry. It's very porous, and it's really pretty. You know, somebody knows what this is, but I don't. This looks like a plant I had one of my former houses in California. We're in the state of Utah. I would say we're probably going up about a 15 to 20 degree grade. It's pretty out here though. Super quiet. There's not a actual road within 10 to 15 miles of here. But most of the area looks like this. And then what you're looking for is patches where there's a particular upheaval. And it's usually going to be harder stone, often chalcedony. I'll come back when we found something, just to give you an idea what the countryside looks like. It's quite pretty out here. Got a lot of free-range cows. No people. So we've kind of come up on an area that normally I would talk about. This is essentially a potato, which in my eyes is worthless, but at first I thought this was quartz and you know, indicative of quartz vein, and it's not. It's usually found with chalcedony. Here's some small botryoidal, but what I'm really after more is right over here. And I'm gonna, I don't know if this is gonna come out in this light or not. Let me see if I can raise this up. So originally I came here looking for other agate, and This isn't quite as thick as what I'm looking for, but it's just as interesting. I call it flowers because it just seems to have a lot of flower looking stuff in it. Once you put this on the grinder, it comes out looking a lot like it's got worms going through it. So my wife calls this worm Chalcedony. I don't think she wants to wear any of this, but this is kind of what I'm looking for right here. And so I'll throw that in the bag and let's see what we got here. Yeah. So real interesting patterns that riddle their way through. The piece is solid enough where it's not going to break. These don't fracture very, very quickly. And usually they're thicker than this, and we're going to find thicker examples today. But this is what I'm after, and in this location. One thing I'll look for is I don't want there to be a seam going through or a cavity, because then, you know, you just have this gigantic hole in the middle of your piece. But, you know, if I can find solid pieces that are reasonably thick, that show character, which do not have a seam, and this one doesn't, then this one doesn't show as much character. But when I get them on the cab machine, and I think what I'll do right now is I'll pull up a picture of make out of these. I don't expect much more than this, but these are cool enough for me. Like this has got enough character for me, you know, to say, hey, let's do something with that. But you can see they're interesting. They're interesting to make jewelry with, that's for sure. I make pendants, and so I'm going to be out here looking for these today. I'm just going all over looking for these Peeble zones. It's pretty dense, semi-dense here, but yeah, I think these are kind of interesting to me in that they look like they could be cool specimens. I've found some really large chunks, you know, maybe Chalcedony I was talking about, which is from the second location, which we didn't go to. I wanted to take us there, but the weather turned. I wasn't able to do so. But this stuff is rather thin and will fracture easily, so finding a big specimen is kind of uncommon. I really like the riddling, botryoidal kind of worms going through these flower Chalcedony. Something like this, which is thick and not creviced. Any geologist or rockhound that says he doesn't lick rocks is lying to you. We all lick rocks, but it's not coming out. But this one's okay, I guess. Yeah, later today or tomorrow. No, I'm just looking for the Chalcedony. Again, this is a typical. I'm looking for slabs like this, which are not creviced too much. Thicker. Not spectacular, but once you get into these things, you never know. But yeah, this is the kind of thickness that I'm looking for right here. Something like this gives you an idea how creviced and nuanced these can be. Sometimes it's more than just 2 layers, it's more like 5 or 10 layers, and it can be quite solid between them. So picking up a piece like this isn't always so bad. But if I find bigger specimens of this, I'll show you what that looks like. So a bigger piece, and this is what I'm after, because it's just solid all the way through. As you can see that. I don't know if that focuses or not. But yeah. So a bigger piece, I can do a lot with this. But this should be all over. There might be another piece right over there. I thought this rock was interesting because what you have here is the host, and you have the Chalcedony right on top of it, which is pretty cool to me. This whole thing was covered with Chalcedony, a whole sheet, which could have been some sort of area where water came through. Who knows? Yeah, not really finding the big ones today, but again, this is another example of jasper. As you can see, it's got the Chalcedony in it too. Pretty cool little guy. You know, maybe it wants to be a pendant. You never know. Put that in the pouch. Yeah, earlier I mentioned that some of these can grow. Not you. Some of these can grow rather thick, and rather than being creviced, you can get a really interesting solid piece. So I'll grab something like this, and maybe this guy would be interesting. Anyway, so here's some more examples of conglomerate. As you can see, some of it is holding some Chalcedony in there too. And that might be cool, but I don't think the host is hard enough, you know? And I think, well, we would all agree that it's kind of a cool looking rock. It doesn't look like this is going to be anything, because do you see how crumbly? Do you see how crumbly this is? Like this jasper. It's super crumbly. And even though it's riddled with Chalcedony, and it makes an interesting looking sample, like I realistically can't do anything with this. I mean, I could probably crush it right there, like that. Kind of a cool sample though, huh? You don't see that every day. Anyway, thought I'd show you that. So I only show this guy because if I'm lucky, some of the pockets of Chalcedony, some of these little eggs could be colored. I've got some at home that's orange, but this doesn't look like it has much color at all, but it kind of gives you an idea of what would be a nice find if it was more colored. I've worked my way up to about 6,600 feet. Just wanted to show how cool this area is. fun walking around here. So originally I thought this was quartz, and it might be young quartz. However, to me it appears to be just a large piece of chalcedony, which I'm sure to some viewers this is going to be interesting. They're going to yell at me for not taking this home, but to me, I don't see enough in this, enough character to turn it into anything, right? Like, even if it's, not a potato, and it has character of chalcedony, and it's just all white, like it doesn't have any color at all. So I'm gonna let that guy stay here, So we're gonna head back, mostly because I'm stupid and I forgot to take water for myself. I took a spray bottle, but none for me. Not exactly thinking. Pretty picture. So here's what we picked up with the chalcedony. It's a specific type mainly, which we saw to be pretty thick with some permeations of looks like worms or flowers. And we picked up quite a bit of that. We picked up a bucket of that, a little container here, and you can see some pieces are a little bigger than others. If I focused on the right thing, you could see. But each of these has got some character, which I think is pretty cool. And I wouldn't have gone back to that spot. However, here's some of the pieces that I've put on up to the 600. Some of the pitfalls are, you can see where sometimes you'll get a crevice, and that's going to go through quite a ways. You can see the character of the back, which I consider to look like flour, and that comes through. And I'm going to do this even though it's not polished, but I think this is what it will look like when it's polished. And then when I wrap these, I'll hide the sides with some of the wire wrap that I use. Let me give you another piece. Again, I kind of think it looks a little bit like little flowers, but my wife says it looks like worms. And there's an imperfection over here. Oops, sorry, I'm trying to get this in the viewfinder here. But yeah, they've got some standard ones out there too, which just will come out like a standard chalcedony, which I think has character as well, and those kind of pop. And then some of the chalcedony has a black in it, and I thought the black was more solid than it was, but it's not that solid. But for some pendants, I think this could add a little character. Let's do something with that. So that's it for this one. Thanks for coming along, because yeah, it was a lot of fun.